24:14, A Testimony to All Peoples, Chapter 5, Passion for God, Compassion for People, by Shadanka Johnson. Practical demonstrations of God's love play an integral role in church planting movements. They serve both as entry points for the good news and as fruits of the kingdom transformation in people's lives and communities. Access ministries are one of the pillars of the New Harvest Ministries. Since New Harvest began, they have played a major role in showing God's compassion, making disciples, planting churches in more than 4,000 communities in 12 countries. These compassionate engagements have been key catalysts in shaping hundreds of thousands of new disciples and more than 10,000 new Christian leaders. Compassion is an essential kingdom value found in the DNA of every disciple-making movement. We have done dozens of different types of access ministries. Each one plays a unique role in helping us advance God's kingdom in Africa. Most are not expensive, but with God's help, they make a great impact. We partner with the local people in every ministry. They often provide leadership, labor, and materials, things present in the community that can help meet needs. Heroic compassion. New Harvest serves many countries from our headquarters here in Sierra Leone. When Ebola struck out in 2014, we could not stay in safe places and not engage the disaster all around us. This crisis hit many Muslim villages especially hard, as the brutal burial rites caused the epidemic to explode there. Suddenly, because of Ebola, people could not even touch dying parents or children. In that context, several New Harvest leaders volunteered in the most hazardous places. Some survived, but several lost their lives serving others, mostly Muslims. The Muslim chief of one of the community was discouraged by people trying to escape his quarantined village. He was amazed at seeing Christians coming to serve. He privately prayed this prayer: God, if you save me from this, if you save my family, I want us all to be like these people who showed us love and bring us food. The chief and his family did survive, and he kept his promise. Memorizing passages from the Bible, he began to share them in the mosque where he had been an elder. A church was birthed in that village, and the chief continues going from village to village, sharing the good news of God's kingdom. Discovering felt needs, engaging lostness. For New Harvest Ministry, access ministries begin with assessing the felt needs of community. When we complete a needs assessment, the partnership with the community must develop mutual respect and trust. After a while, the relationship leads to the storytelling and discovery Bible studies. Access ministries let them see the love of Christ powerfully touch their lives. Prayer is the foundation of everything we do. So, once an assessment is done, our intercessors begin to pray for open doors and open hearts, the selection of project leaders, open hands by the locals, a supernatural move, the leading of the Spirit, God to provide needed resources. All of our prayer centers know the communities being served. They fast and pray for each of them, and God always opens the right door at the right time with the right provision. Prayer is the most powerful and effective access ministry. It has caused a cascading effect throughout the movement. We are convinced beyond any doubt that strategic fasting and prayer consistently leads to the defeat of the dark powers of darkness. Sometimes prayer for the sick opens wide doors for access. Through persistent prayer, we have seen very hostile communities opened, unlikely persons of peace identified, and whole families saved. All the glory goes to the Father, who hears and answers prayers. Prayer undergirds everything we do. I tell people that 3 most important elements of Access Ministries are first prayer, second prayer, and third prayer. Every project makes our King famous. We do whatever it takes to get the gospel to the people so Christ receives the glory. Our work is never about us, it is about Him. We make Him known with His strategic focus on unreached people groups. Education team. When education is an obvious need, our intercessors take this need to God in prayer. While we are praying, we engage the community to discover what resources they have. We find out that what they can provide to meet their own need. Often the community will supply land, a community building, or the construction material to build a temporary structure. We usually encourage the community to pay part of the teacher's salary. The teacher is fully certified, and he or she is also a veteran disciple maker or church planter. Church schools start with a few benches, pencils or pens, a box of chalk, and a chalkboard. The school may start under a tree, in a community center, or in an old house. We start slowly and grow the school academically and spiritually. When a person of peace opens his or her home, it becomes a launching pad. For a DBS meeting and later for a church. We have launched more than 100 primary schools, most of which are now owned by the community. From this simple program, God has also raised up 12 secondary schools, 2 trade technical schools, and every nation college. This college has an accredited school of business and a school of theology. Contrary to what some might expect, disciple-making movements also need strong seminaries. Medical, dental, hygiene. We identify a health need. We send in teams of well-qualified medical practitioners with medicines, equipment, and supplies. All our team members are strong disciple makers and skilled in facilitating the DBS process. Many are skilled church planters as well. While the team treats patients, they also look for a person of peace. If they don't discover one in the first visit, they will make a second visit. If they discover a person of peace, he or she will serve as the bridge and future host for DBS. If they don't find a person of peace, the team will go to a different community while still praying for an open door in the previous one. The 10 church planters have been well trained, equipped as dentists. 10 church planters have been well trained, equipped as dentists. They are accredited by health authorities to do public dental extractions and fillings. One of them also doubtless doubles as an optometrist. He checks eyesight and dispenses suitable glasses. He does this at cost to keep the process going and to avoid dependency. Other health team members provide training on hygiene, breastfeeding, nutrition, child vaccines, and prenatal care for pregnant women. A most unusual access ministry. We do all of this in a Christ-like manner, seeking to make God's kingdom visible. God moves and makes his presence known. This often starts with one family or an unlikely community leader. In this way, we consistently see ongoing multiplication of disciples, Discovery Bible groups, and churches. One large community in the southern part of Sierra Leone has been very difficult for us to enter. They were extremely hostile toward Christians. People identified as Christians found it difficult even to enter that place. So we prayed for that town, but time passed and none of our strategies worked. Then suddenly happened. The national news reported a health problem in that town. Young men were becoming ill and dying. It was found that the infection related to the fact that the village never circumcised their boys. As I prayed about the problem, I felt the Lord convict me that this was finally our open door to serve this town. We gathered a volunteer medical team and went to the community. With the proper equipment and medications, we asked if they would let us help them. We were delighted when the town leaders agreed. On the first day, they circumcised more than 300 young men. Over the next days, the men were just healing. That gave us an opportunity to begin Discover Bible Study. Groups during the healing days. We saw great response, and soon the kingdom multiplication began happening with churches being planted. Within just a few years, he placed where Christians could not enter was transformed into the place where God's glory shone brightly. The compassion of God's people, the power of much prayer, and the transforming Word of God changed everything. Agricultural team. Our first access ministry was agriculture. In places where farming is critical, agriculture becomes a great gateway to serve people. Most of the farming is subsistence farming, mainly for family consumption. Often no seed is saved for the next planting. These situations led us to develop seed banks for farmers. As with our other teams, we trained 9 agriculturalists who are also trained church planters. These agriculturalist disciple makers educate the farmers. Their training and mentoring lead to relationships that result in DBS groups, baptisms, and eventually churches. Today, many farmers have become followers of Christ. Sports teams. Sports teams ministry is another huge success, especially in communities with a lot of young people. When our assessment discovers a lot of youth and passion for, say, soccer, we quickly move into action. We throw out a challenge for our powerful team to play a friendly game. If a town does not have a good team, we encourage them to get players from nearby so they can field a good team. Once they have a team, we often provide jerseys and soccer balls to help with their training. When the game day comes, the whole village is in a festive mood, singing praises of their team. They feel very confident they will win. Our team goes into the game knowing what will happen. They will play well, but in the end they will intentionally lose. You can imagine the town's excitement when their team wins. This becomes a point of pride. The story doesn't end there. When we ask for a rematch, with great confidence, the community responds, "Come anytime, we'll beat you again." The return match is usually played at the earliest possible date. In the second game, our team will play very well and make sure they thrash the host team without mercy. After their pitiful defeat, the community team will quickly ask for another match. Our reason for losing the first game is to build strong relationships with our community. We know that making disciples boils down to one thing: relationship. Every relationship has 2 main dimensions: a connection with God and one with people. The point of the game is to create an environment that will lead to DBS groups and then to churches. Using this approach, many churches have been planted. Many disciples and leaders have been raised up. who rapidly multiply within their tribes and communities. Today we celebrate many coaches and players who have become community disciples, disciple makers, and passionate church planters. Planting churches. About 90% of our attempted access ministries have led to a church. Very often, one engagement results in several churches planted. As we revisit communities, we hear many testimonies of individual, family, and community transformations, compassion for people, making God famous.